use them? His minutes are in the...
It is. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Talk about not using the microphone myself. It's 5:31. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, do roll call. Kelly Johnson.
Here.
Michael O'Brien. Here. Will Marshall.
Present.
Carmen Lewis. Here. Lenore Noble.
Here.
Dale Talley. Here. I myself are present. We have a quorum. I did put the minutes in your packet there if you've had a chance to review them. If not, we'll take a minute so you can look them over. Pretty straightforward.
I'll make a motion to approve those.
I'll second that.
Okay, Talley, Johnson. Motion made to approve by Talley, seconded by Johnson. Let's go with Johnson.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Will Marshall.
Aye.
Lewis.
Aye.
Noble.
Aye.
Talley.
Aye.
I myself an aye. Minutes are approved. Under old business, really have none with the exception of enforcement of the drinking on public property update. It bounces around like a tennis ball. It has gotten better around the gazebo area, but today there was 25 or 30 people over at the funeral home.
Yeah, on Hickory there.
Wow.
I don't get it. Somebody called it in. I do know that, the police, dispersed, the crowd, but, I know the cameras have, helped around the gazebo area and stuff. That's all I got. I'll turn it over to you, Mr.
Nothing new, it's just what you noted as well. Particularly the last 2 days, there was really large crowds, 25 plus people. So nothing new, but we continue to monitor it and follow up as we can.
Me personally, I would, dealing with the homeless, situation, I would like to know, when the police interact with these, this group, are they the day drinkers? Are they homeless? Is it a combination of both? But the individual that called me on it today said there was 2 or 3 children mixed in with that group. Why aren't they in school?
But they didn't say how old the children were either, did they?
They were saying like 7, 8, which is mighty young. I personally went by yesterday, and it was a pretty good group hanging out, and went by today, same thing. So like I say, I don't know if they're homeless. I don't know if they're just the day drinkers. But when the police dispersed, I guess like 7 or 8 of them went over to the liquor store. So.
I just had a question. So you're saying they hanging out at the
old funeral home that is going to be rehabbed shortly.
It's abandoned?
Yeah.
Property?
It's
Just hanging out on that property?
Yeah, right on the front porch, and I'm just not just individuals. There's cars hanging there. They're parking over at the. It's almost like a block party, I guess you'd say. But that's I didn't personally drive by. I went by. Went up Schuyler, but I did receive a call on it. But
So when the police go, do they disperse the crowd or what?
I guess people just started leaving on their own, but I don't know what the interaction was. I can ask what transpired today from the call, but if people are if they're drinking, then obviously there's something that can be done about it. If they're just hanging out, it is private property and they got an agency agreement, but I know he's supposed to start working on that shortly, and so hopefully that'll change.
That would be very helpful once construction starts, I think, like you say, then they probably move elsewhere.
I would think so, but with that, if we don't have anything else on that, did you have a comment, ma'am?
I did have
We went through the public comment, but if there's no opposition to the committee, I'd go ahead and let her speak.
I have no opposition.
I'm fine with that.
Okay? Please state your name and,
Hi, I just got off work, I'm sorry. My name is Joe Thomas. Keep going.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
You passed the test so
I
far.
passed, okay, good. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Joe Thomas. I'm one of the owners of Legacy Banquet Hall here in Kankakee, as well as Little Light of My Child Care Center in Kankakee. So I'm coming before you today to ask for a request to have, is it the code? Okay, it's the code change for the parking, storm detention, drainage system. So they're requiring me to put that in my parking lot, and I have a very small parking lot, and this ordinance or code that you have in our city book is kind of outdated, if I may say. It requires you to put in a storm detention in a small area. It can be for a large area, which would be necessary, because you don't want the water overflowing and causing flooding. But because my parking lot is so little, it's a big expense. And that's why I'm asking if you guys could consider changing that code, looking into something else that wouldn't cost the city additional money, because I was advised to go to ECDA and ask for funding for that, but that would also cost our city money. We don't want to do that either. So being a small business, but wanting to be in compliance with the city, and I do welcome the parking lot in our little space that we have over there, because it upgrades your building. You know, it makes it look more professional, and people will want to come, you know, if you have a parking lot, and then you got all of the landscaping and everything like that that goes along with it. But I don't want to do that if I really don't have to, and because it costs a lot of money. It's not going to create a major runoff when we add that parking lot. And we did just have an upgrade to that area with a big storm drain system put in that will help to eliminate that flooding that was happening on Hobby Avenue and Birch. Okay, so I think I did write little notes here. And then also, I have been in touch with the city planner. I've talked to my engineer, and I talked to Paving Pros. They also have taken a look at that and said that, you know, this is something that's really not needed for such a small parking space. And then I've also been in touch with my alderman, so just trying to be in compliance, because I do know that the asphalt companies will be closing up soon. So we're trying to get this done. I know I have gotten an extension in the past, but it was not on me. It was because we had to get that storm drain system put in anyway for the city of Kankakee. In other surrounding areas, it's a minimum of 10,000 square feet that they will have to have in order to put that drainage system in. In our code, there is no minimum. So for small businesses like mine, you know, again, it's a great expense. We're trying to stay in business. I think if our city would help us out with this, it'll make more small businesses want to open and develop in our city. And so finally, let me see, I got one more thing. And if you don't believe me, you can reach out to MG2A, they're the engineer. Paving Pros is the people that I've been talking with as far as doing our parking lot. And I do have the estimate here that can show you the breakdown of how much, if you guys want to take a look at it, of what this bid is going to be like. So it's very expensive.
Can you just tell us what that amount is?
$56,000.
I'm in my committee meeting.
And that's with the...
And that's with the
With the
drainage system.
drainage, okay.
Yes.
And this is, I'm trying to picture your building and site in my head. This would be the little lot to the south,
Right behind it.
behind it, into the south, there's like a little house in the train tracks, but it would be between your building and the little house?
So the parking lot will go behind that,
The west side of the building.
Okay,
Okay.
the west side of the building.
okay. And so it's, I mean, it's little.
Yeah, it's little.
Like how-
So it's like from the back door to where the alley is, so where the dumpster is. That's where those 14 spaces will go, right in there.
It's 4,130 square feet.
Thank you, okay.
Okay?
And it's, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry, $56,000 for 4,100 square feet of,
Yes.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
That's just the detention cost. Is that just the detention cost?
No, that's for the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
So it's for the parking lot, the detention is a big part of it as
How
well.
much of it is the detention?
Yeah.
So according to this estimate, just for the drainage and the pipe installation is $10,000. Okay.
Okay.
And then I had one other little thing. Oh, I think I said it already.
What's the
I'm talking
address?
so fast.
What's the address of
The address is 1060 East Birch Avenue.
Right off of Hobby there.
Yeah.
Right, Birch Ave. Okay, and then I know you guys are familiar with all that flooding that we used to have on
Oh,
the
yeah.
street.
And really, that's the biggest concern, you know, with making changes, but, I mean, you know, it is on the agenda here for, you know, discussion, you know, to be in line with the other communities. So, you know, my biggest thing would be is, you know, we don't ever want to create a situation where, you know, you put a parking lot in, and now your neighbors, you know, you're flooding your neighbors, so.
Exactly.
But I mean, my personal opinion, you know, if the city planner and the city engineer, you know, would be in agreement, you know, that it's not going to create a situation, then, you know, I wouldn't, you know, I personally wouldn't have an issue with it. But like I say, it is on for discussion, so actually, you know, glad you spoke up.
Okay.
Is there an opportunity for us to get feedback from the city planner and city engineer, so we can have that?
It's on the
It's on the agenda, yeah.
Oh, it is, we'll talk about it shortly, got it, okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily, I mean, obviously, it's on the agenda, but not per se for her, you know, particular location,
Specific
you know,
project.
Understood, right.
just overall, so,
Okay.
okay.
Well, that's all I had. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And maybe, you know, if the committee has any, once we get into this discussion, you know, you'd be probably welcome to come back up, you know, if there's no opposition. Okay, so with that, under new business, we have stormwater ordinance amendment regarding detention requirements. Once again, Bradley and Bourbonnais, they're 10,000 square foot before they require a detention pond. I guess my take on it would be a good example over there off of Jeffrey Street when they put in the Dollar General. They put in a large, I don't know what their square footage, but just as an example from what I see, they put in a large detention pond, and it's become nothing but kind of a mucky weed patch that you don't have enough water in there to, you know, fish in. Let's put it that way. But so I do see the need, you know, when you're going to create a runoff situation and you're going to flood your neighbors. So with that, I would welcome the city planner's input and her take on this.
So I will say that even before Joe Thomas came to my office asking about this has come up a couple times with smaller projects, for sure. But this was the first time the engineer at Gingrich kind of brought it to my attention. I didn't realize that we didn't have I don't do stormwater review, Neil does, so I didn't realize what our thresholds were. I'd never really dug into our stormwater ordinance. And he mentioned that everybody around us had a threshold of 10,000 square feet for detention requirements. Initially, Joe had asked about a variance to the stormwater ordinance, which Neil and I were not super inclined to support, because it's not like a zoning variance. They're a little different. And this is something that we've held pretty much everybody to so far. I mean, they've been very strict about it, I think, Neil and Mike both. And but I think when looking at this, it's actually, so here, I apologize. I did this yesterday, and so I had looked up Bourbonnais regulations yesterday and put them all in this matrix, but today I got a chance to look at Bradley's ordinances as well as Kankakee County, and actually all three are mirrored. And when I say that, it's somebody copied somebody copied somebody. It's the exact same language in every single one of the jurisdictions. And in fact, this is what Neil and both the Gingrich MG2A's group both recommended us just model Bourbonnais. They like how it's laid out, but honestly, like these thresholds and these requirements for submittals are literally exactly, word for word, exactly the same. So that would be what I would recommend, but you can see here, so I know it's a little complicated, but on the left is our regulations. We do have a little bit of a threshold in here for site development permit requirements, which is the 5,000 square foot. It's any of these things, A, B, C, D, E, but really, like if you look at this 5,000 square foot over a period of 10 years. But based on what Neil's interpretation of our code is that the detention is not part of that based on how our code is written. And so our detention kicks in immediately, like right at the beginning. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you're going to do a non-residential and you're adding impervious area, you're looking at doing storm calcs and doing detention. So it's pretty hefty, I think, and especially when you have all the communities that are regulating at basically 10,000 square feet. So what they both have, all three of those communities have, is two different permit types. They have a Class 1 grading and drainage permit and a Class 2. And really the take home with this is that the Class 1 is basically anything in excess of 5,000 square feet, there's a cubic yard threshold of disturbance. If you're doing a new single-family home on a property that already that doesn't have a neighborhood drainage plan with it, because sometimes projects get far enough along but don't get engineering. We have that with Indian Meadows, actually, because we don't have an on-file drainage plan. So, like Dr. Gupta had to go through and do grading and drainage plans with us for submittal. But so if they don't have a drainage plan, they have to go through this process here. And then and with that, the submittal for those permits is super simple, right? It's still a site plan. It still goes through review with Neil and I, but it doesn't require them to do, and in some situations, it's going to still require them to do grading on the surface, but it's not going to require detention, which is expensive. It's expensive to design, it's expensive to construct, all those things, right? And then there's a Class 2 grading and drainage permit, which is that 10,000 cap, and that's a full engineering set with all the storm calcs and the detention requirements and all that. So, and again, our requirement for submittal for like everything aligns with that Class 2 permit. That's how our code reads right now. And so what we would propose, and I did speak with Neil again today about this. We just had a meeting and went over this a little bit, but he's fine with these regulations as they sit with all these other communities, and we would just basically mirror them. The only thing he's a little concerned about is the site plan. When I talked to, I think MG2A takes in their applications at Bourbonnais. This site plan submittal for the Class 1, which is like the lower level submittals, it says in here that it's like a site plan that's suitable to whoever is taking in the projects or whatever. I think they take in hand-drawn site plan layouts. I can't remember if I talked to Bradley or Bourbonnais. I think they do review for Bourbonnais. And Neil wasn't super excited about taking in hand drawings for these things. So it does say in all of their ordinance that it's like whatever suitable method is preferred by the authority, which would be myself and Neil. So I think we would just need to set that policy right off the bat, like what we expected for that submittal. The other part of this that's just important to understand is that we also have a site plan approval process, which is in the zoning ordinance, which is different than these grading and drainage plans. So there are going to be some projects that are under, let's just say under 5,000, which is below this level for the Class 1 grading and drainage permit, that are still going to be required to go through a site plan approval process with Neil and I. And that's basically to make sure that if you're adding new parking for a non-residential use, that your parking stalls meet the right size, that you have ADA compliance and things like that, that may not be tripped up if it's very, very small, even much smaller than yours. It could be that it's a very tiny parking lot with like 2 stalls and one drive aisle or something, and it's not tripping the grading and drainage permit, but it still has to go through site plan approval. And that, in our code, is very similar to Bourbonnais' process. They have an administrative site plan approval process that's for multifamily, non-residential, and then accessory structures that are non-residential. So like if you are a commercial property adding an accessory structure. Single family doesn't go through this process, it just does a zoning review on a permit, basically. So I hope that's clear. I know it's a lot, but I think that ultimately the take-home is that we have our county and 2 of our large communities right near us that have much more, I would say, significantly more lenient stormwater regulations than we do. And I think that it's very appropriate for us to be at least at the same level. And when I asked Neil about this, my only concern was if there was some kind of like overriding reason why Kankakee would want to have more stringent regulations. Like, do we have like a history of rampant flooding like throughout the city that would want us to have these more stringent regulations than our neighboring communities? And he said no. I mean, he said we've flooding issues, but like not any more than any of our other communities would be dealing with. And did not, I mean, I think Neil feels comfortable with these regulations. So our intention would be, if the ordinance committee is okay with adoption of this or change of this to our stormwater ordinance, is that I would do the bulk of the redlining and have Neil review it and make any changes, and we would bring it forward for change.
I mean, obviously Neil, he's the engineer and he deals with the, site plans and the flooding areas and, I mean, that's his area of expertise, just as, Melissa's is, but you got a question?
I just wanted to ask her. So you're saying pretty much ours would be just like Bourbonnais, and we just have like for the permit required would be a site development permit and class 1 grading and drainage permit?
So our code currently calls it a site development permit, and
Right.
the regulations, these would go away.
Okay.
And ours would be called these.
The same?
We could still call them site development permits, we could call them class 1 site development permits, we can call them whatever we want. But I mean, I think it might be just easy enough to just mirror
Just
it.
to do it, okay. That's what I'm asking, if we would just mirror it, okay.
Yeah.
So would that come back to this committee or go directly to the city council?
It depends on what this ordinance,
Okay.
what this committee wants to do. I'm open to whatever.
But the matter of
I would like
timing
to
is
see it.
I
important.
think for Joe's timing, it's really critical, yeah.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
say, it's really critical, that she get her parking lot done, because with Hobby being messed up for all of this time, she
Right.
hasn't been able to even have her business running over there. And we have lost a business 2 blocks down due to the fact of how Hobby was closed. And she has really tried to hold on to her business. And I think maybe a lot of it is because she has another business that has helped her to still maintain this business. And if we could shed some of this so that everybody, all of our businesses would be benefiting from this. The smaller businesses, they wouldn't have this requirement over their head, and it wouldn't be have to be brought to Melissa, the planning board either, if this was already taken care of by us at this point, so.
My personal take on it, I mean, if we're mirroring Bradley, Bourbonnais, and the county, I would see no real need to, come back to the committee if we're agreeing that that's what we're doing. We're mirroring the other communities, if there's some slight change or addition, when you and Neil get together, I think that could be redlined and put in, for the packet before city council, and it could always be tabled if necessary,
If necessary.
Outside of that, I would be in favor of mirroring the other communities as well as the county.
Yep,
I agree.
I agree.
And
agree.
anybody, I mean, but obviously we'll take a vote on it, but I mean, is anybody, like I say, my only thing is, you don't want to flood your neighbors, and that's where the site plan comes in, and, Neil. I mean, I just don't believe that Neil's gonna, or the city planner's gonna let anything go through that's gonna create
A problem.
a problem.
Right.
As far as drainage goes. But,
I think both of the regulations also still say that we may still require it if necessary. You know, I think there's language in the, specifically I saw in the Bourbonnais regulations, that it says, even under a Class 1, I think, it says right here, for Class 1 permits, stormwater detention calculations may still be required. I mean, it leaves the option for Neil to require it if we have a problem area in the city.
right.
Right.
And as you should, I mean, you can't
You have
just
to.
carbon, cookie cut,
Everything can be
each
defined.
each side is a little different,
Exactly.
so,
Are you looking for a motion?
yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we pass this on to the city council with the approval of the planner and the city engineer.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Marshall, we get a second by Johnson to mirror the other communities as presented. Any changes, could be redlined, and when we get the, packet from the city council. And if need be, if there was any opposition, we could table it at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with Moore Marshall,
Aye.
Tolly,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Noble,
Aye.
Carmen Lewis.
Aye.
I myself's an aye. So,
Go
ahead.
Director King, I know you're busy. Do you think we can get it on for our next council meeting, or is that too soon? Just because I know time is of the essence. I don't know what time, I think the asphalt companies are open till a certain temperature-ish.
So, on the surface, this doesn't seem like a big change. Our ordinance is actually really short. It's only 16 pages long, including title, signature pages, and whatnot. In fact, I feel like it probably, Neil and I both feel like it needs a bigger overhaul. But I think I still have to read through it. I think I'll probably trip up on some definitions, but I'm not guessing there's anything more than just, because this section is really just the applicability exemption section. It doesn't really have to do with like the actual, like how you calculate detention or any of those technical things. So I think I think it will probably be pretty easy to get on the next agenda. I will try my hardest.
Yeah.
The biggest, I guess, issue is not really me. It's whether or not I can get it done and get it in front of Neil
Okay.
for a quick turnaround, because if he's busy, I can ask him.
Okay.
It's probably more
just-
about his schedule than mine, yeah.
You still want to get it done this fall if you can, because otherwise, not till spring at the,
Yeah. We got a little bit, but not much,
Yeah, because they gave me an extension till December.
Use the mic, please.
Yeah, they gave me extension till December, so we're supposed to get it done this season. So
Okay.
that's why.
Yeah, but once the asphalt plant closes,
Right.
it probably won't be
It's
up until December.
No,
No,
no.
Mid-November-ish,
Mid-November is about-
okay.
yeah.
so,
And then we did start this back in 2022, so
Right.
No,
MG2A went through everything with a fine tooth comb.
Okay.
And they were back and forth with Neil Pickett's show.
Okay, so
He does
everything,
have site
We
plan.
did, we do have a site plan, we
She's
got
got site
everything,
plan
we went
approval.
through the whole process and got approved, everything, so,
okay,
okay.
good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
all righty. All right, next, we have zoning code amendments regarding second floor residential. We'll just go ahead and turn it over to the city planner.
Sure. Okay, so, just a little history. The first time I noticed these inconsistencies were when Jeffers came through. And then when we had a case on the last planning board agenda that had above ground floor residential dwelling units in it, in a C2 district. And I realized that there were no regulations in C2 whatsoever, which is, it's just kind of odd. I feel like C1, which is, I think it would have been less odd if C1 didn't have regulations, because C1 is typically like a local commercial district, which is a very low intensity, and then you usually step up with intensity, right? And so C1 had regulations, C3 also had regulations, but C2 did not have any regulations. And then C3's issue is that they, well, first of all, the regulations are listed twice in the C3 district, 2 times, they repeat each other. One's in like the introduction paragraph, and then it's listed again in like the district regulations underneath. And then furthermore, the use table prohibits the above-ground dwelling units in C3. So they're in the district regulations, but say prohibited in the table. C2 is allowed in the table, but there were no district regulations. And then C1 seems to be, I think, generally okay, except I think there was a mention of, in the C3 regulations on the back, under this opening paragraph, it's all marked out in red. So the ABCD that's marked out that's that repetitive language, right? You find that down below. It's exactly the same thing. And then the paragraph introduction is like 2 sentences basically saying that these are accessory to principal uses, so that they're like on the second floor, they're not the principal use. You normally have like a commercial business or something downstairs. I will also say on record that when Mike brought Jeffers through the first time, even though these regulations read this way, there was parking on the first floor of that building, and there were above-ground residential units, and Mike still interpreted this the same way and took them through for conditional use just for the second-story units. So, but I think, so what I did was, instead of having this whole long paragraph explaining that it's accessory, I just put residential dwelling units accessory, subject to these conditions. That way it's just simple. I don't know if there's any questions about this. It's pretty simple. It's just that change to add the accessory, take those redundant things out of the C3, fix the table, and add the regulations to C2. It's mostly just like a cleanup.
Yeah,
So this is for like, the apartment buildings, like over the movie theater and stuff like that?
Sure.
That's what we're talking
Yep.
about? Okay, so, okay.
Yep.
An example that was just before the planning board was a place over there off of Fifth Avenue. By
909.
by the old shoe repair place, if you remember that. It was,
Okay.
it wasn't an insurance office?
Accounting?
Accounting. Accounting, okay. But they had a couple apartments that were already built up there, but they had to go before the planning board because,
They hadn't been occupied in a really long time.
yeah. So a good example of, so now they have space that's adequate and built out for it, but they can't use it,
Use it.
you know?
And only because a conditional use permit was required, so, because they don't have a conditional use, if they had a conditional use permit on file, they could have occupied this, but they didn't have one on file, so.
Right.
So what happened with that?
It got recommended for approval unanimously. It'll be on the October 6th agenda.
Okay.
That's,
And so this would allow that?
So we took that through anyways, because there's, C2 was already listed on here as a conditional use permit. You could apply for a conditional use permit, but there weren't any regulations. So for instance, one of the things that came up is that those units are really small.
Right.
So one of them is 410, I think, and the other one is 610. But they've been in existence for a very, very long time, since I think the original breakout of those two units was in 1965, was the occupancy permit and the building file. So they've been around for a long time, and I think we would have just granted a variance, right? So we published for a variance, because I first looked at the code and I was like, it's got to be somewhere else. Do you know what I mean, these regulations? I'm just missing it. So I had Dustin publish for the variance, but then I reread through the code again, I couldn't find it anywhere. So
Right.
they didn't motion for a variance because it wasn't necessary, because technically it wasn't tripping any code. There was no minimum floor area. But I do think that because our regulations in all the other districts are that minimum 600 square feet, and it has all these other things where you can't have it on ground floor, and you have to have access to and parking has to be met, I think we should be consistent in all the districts. So I think this is just a cleanup based on seeing this when I was reviewing the project, but it really didn't have any implication as to their request, except that they didn't need a variance. I guess what you're saying, though, I'm sorry, I was just talking, if we pass this, would it have an impact?
Yeah, right.
It could, I guess. So that would be order. We would have to put their conditional use permit on the agenda first.
Mike, you look like you had a question. No?
No questions.
Yeah. Their conditional use permit, if we grant it first, will cover, it will be like their approval for those units.
Okay. So do we have that already ready to go?
I don't have it to Sanchi yet, but it's in my agenda to go to him for this next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. But let me back up. I'm sorry. I'm not thinking this all the way through. So the first one we talked about is in the stormwater ordinance. This does not need to go to planning board. This does have to go to planning board. So actually, this will be on the heels. So this will
Okay.
take a little bit longer.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
I apologize.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
this has
wouldn't
to go
be-
to hearing, so
Not going to be in
October.
conflict of that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
good.
apologize for that.
Okay, great. That's what I was asking. Very good. I'm good.
Okay.
I understand this now. I'm glad that you
Feel free.
explained it. 'Cause
So for the building that you guys are looking at, you said one of the apartment units are 410 square feet, but this says they have to have a minimum of 600. So is that why they're getting a conditional use?
No, they're getting a conditional use because it was required. These district regulations weren't there, but they were on the table says that they're C, so there's a conflict in the code, you know?
Okay.
But the code also says that the uses listed in the table are also allowed, like permitted uses, so there don't have to be district regulations for them to apply. So when they came in before and applied, these weren't here, but there was a table that said you could apply for a conditional use permit, so they did. We didn't grant them a variance to the square footage size.
So can they only rent one of their units?
Well, I think that like if we grant them a conditional use permit before this code is changed, there is no minimum right now in this district, because they're zone C2.
Hopefully, they get approved, then this won't affect them.
Because the conditional use permit by ordinance will give them the allowance to have those units in that building.
Right. They were existing units.
It'll
I
be
mean,
like an existing, yeah.
They're kind
yeah.
of grandfathered.
So I'm
They
trying
are.
to figure out now, like, a lot of our buildings are still old here in Kankakee, and so a lot of them are already existing and have been used for this use. So now, when they change hands, are they gonna be not allowed due to this, or will y'all still be granting them a conditional use?
So with any conditional use permit, like it doesn't matter if there's units involved or not, if a property just changes hands, it doesn't change. So if you have tenants in there and they're renting and Dustin Coy sells the property and somebody else buys it, and they keep having people renting, that conditional use rides with the land. It runs with the land, it does not run with that property
Okay.
owner. So, but in any conditional use permit, if there's a vacancy, or it goes unoccupied, or the use is abandoned, if you will, for a period of time, it can go, become non-conforming, to where you have to come into compliance with the code.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that a year typically?
yeah, typically.
Which, that's good and bad, because back in the late 80s, early 90s, you know, that was implemented over there on Greenwood. So you had, Kankakee Federal got a building back in foreclosure, and you had a 16-unit, two-bedroom, 32-bedroom unit that went back to single-family dwelling, which was insane. You couldn't market it, and eventually that was overturned, but,
We have a lot of these this happen all over the city. It's a problem.
Yeah.
And it's not even about the conditional use permits. We just have a lot of converted properties that are non-conforming, and many of them can't meet parking, many of them can't, meet those minimum lot areas and things like that. I think unless this is just my personal opinion, but unless they're establishing new and trying to add 2 units.
Right.
Or there were only one, and especially if we can establish, like in this case, it was the one we took to planning board last time, digging in those building files and being able to find that original permit issued by the city, and an occupancy for 2 units upstairs, I think it gets really difficult to say no to someone. And then to have those units and that real estate being filtered through our city for, 75 years, and then all of a sudden we're like, nah, we want you to have one. I think I think if we start to act like that we're gonna have a really hard time with our real estate. We already are it's already before I even started here, Mike was dealing with it all the time, and I don't know how it was with Cliff, but I know that we definitely have a lot of issues because we have so many conversions in existing single-family homes. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Any questions? Nope. So this is going to have to go for a hearing, right?
Correct. So we'll have to go to planning board and then council.
Okay. So I guess we'd be looking at, making a motion to send this over to planning and have a hearing on it.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
And go, go to full city council after.
I made that motion.
Okay, motion made by Tolly, second by Lewis. Will Marshall.
Aye.
Tolly.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Noble. Aye. Lewis. Myself and I. Okay, so you got that. And we have no need for executive session. Let's go to Alderman question and concerns. No? I'll take that and run with it. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, Marshall and Noble. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I know you're opposed, right? We are adjourned at